Hi, I'm Barry Sahajian. Welcome to my bass video YouTube channel. This week's video is the first slap bass tutorial book. I've been around for a little while, as you can probably see, playing bass for a long time. So my first exposure to slap bass, I guess, was around 1979, and I was touring at the time and kind of playing a blend of all kinds of different music. Well, not all kinds. I guess soul, funk, pop, 60s music, jazz, depending on which band I was in. I played in several bands. I toured for about 12 years. In the last band I was in around 1979, everyone was embracing Sly and the Family Stone, and naturally, there we go, Larry Graham, the first slapper, the father of slap bass. I was blown away naturally. You know, it was a glorious time. You know, Jacko and all these great bass players were emerging, developing styles, and so I wanted it bad, naturally, like a lot of other people. At the time, not many people were slapping. It was brand new. It was as a matter of fact, I really didn't even know what was going on with the slap. I had to watch him and figure out what was going on. And so I got off the road in 1980, I think, or something, and I decided I'm going to write a slap bass book, you know? And so I did that. And here it is. This is the book I wrote. I published it in 1981. I called it Thumb and Snap Bass. I had attended Berkeley in the early 70s, and I figured I'd go back to Berkeley and bring this book and bring it over to the bass chair. His name was Rich Appleman, and show it to him and ask him if he might, you know, show it to his students or maybe even use it himself. So I did that. I drove over to Berkeley. I visited Rich Appleman. I showed him the book, and he said to me, you know, you want to know something funny, he said. And I said, of course. I thought I was wondering what he would say. And so he said, just 1 week ago, he goes, I was visited by a fellow named Tony Oppenheim. He wrote a slap bass book too, just published it. So I don't know if I was the very first one that wrote a slap bass tutorial, but I was, I'm thinking Tony and I were the first ones. As far as I know, if anyone knows of any tutorials that were created before 1981, I'd love to know about it. So anyway, the thing is, I haven't looked at this book in years. I mean, I've sold it for many years internationally, but I kind of didn't really look at it. I mean, I was teaching for a long time with it, and it was always a success. When I wrote this book, I decided I would write it step by step, because pretty much at the time I was learning as well as writing, because I was developing, and you know, so it was fresh in my mind how I learned, and I figured this is a great time to jot this stuff down and create a book. So as opposed to, you know, already knowing how to play and then trying to figure out how you learned how to play initially. And I did it step by step because I wanted to nail this stuff. So this book, I wound up writing, I think, 68 examples on the first edition, and I did it step by step, learning just exercises with just thumb, and you know, in very gradual, sort of like you would learn in grammar school how you learned English or something, you know, as opposed to a lot of the tutorials, including myself. You write about like slapping, and you come up with an advanced style, and you show one lick, and you spend 20 minutes or something, 10 to 20 minutes on your YouTube video, and that's great. And you know, a lot of people embrace it as well as myself. But I think, you know, if you're looking and you're a beginner and you want to learn it the right way, step by step by step, this will be the thing to do. So that's how I'm going to approach this tutorial. This will be the first of many tutorials. I'm going to do it, I think, probably at least twice a week, and I'll bring a small amount of material in for you to learn, and you look at it, and then before you know it, a new one will come out and just go one step beyond that, step by step. So there's going to be a lot of videos. I don't know how many it'll take to cover the 68 examples, and I may have 2 or 3 or 4 examples on each video. We start with the technique. Now, There's a lot of different variations on the technique, and a lot of it really depends on your comfort zone and how you feel and how you hold the bass and posture and a bunch of other things. So I'm going to give some general suggestions on how you should approach your technique. I suppose the most important one is to be loose with your right hand and to, you know, be in. It goes like this. A lot of people say it's like turning a doorknob, and that's pretty good. But I like to add more. It's got to be loose. I remember playing with a guitar player, and he would always stress, you know, to go fast and clean. You had to be loose, and he would go like this, you know, to show. I think that's pretty good. You know, hold your hands out, and you know, let them just dangle, and you know, kind of move your forearms to make your hands wiggle back and forth. And he would do that, and I remember in between a song, he'd look over at me and go like this. It was funny, but you know, it really is true. In the case of slapping, really. So that's what you got to know, and you kind of. So here's your doorknob approach, loose hand, and you're just hitting. To begin with, just to get started, you know, warm it up. You know, be aware it's loose over here, and maybe keep. Muted with the left hand, and then we go where you hit with the thumb is kind of between the knuckle and the end of your thumb, and you know, a lot of people suggest you do it right at the end of the neck on the last fret, but it's really not necessary. You know, here I am over here, and it still sounds the same pretty much. And the advantage of being able to play kind of over here is when you graduate into up and down thumb, you're gonna have to go below the string to pull it back up, and that's not possible when you do this. So you learn to play it either way will work for the time being. Now the next thing you got to know is the pop. So now you have two fingers you can pop with, the index or the middle, and then, you know, starting out I would suggest just use the index finger, and then eventually you graduate to using two fingers when you can make a. So you have those, and another thing about right hand technique a lot of people don't mention is, as far as your tone goes, it really doesn't happen to its maximum until your thumb is calloused. That really makes a difference. It kind of, I think it does. And the callus will happen when you stop practicing a bit. Okay, let's go through some examples now. The first example is very simple. It's eighth notes and dead notes and live notes. I'll show you the example. And basically what you're going to do here is just get the wrist moving in the doorknob routine, and very loose. And it's simple, and you just concentrate on that. And I'm going to show you a muting technique too as we go along. But first, let's just go over the line, sort of like this. Okay, you see the notation. It's very simple. So you go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, so you can do that slow, and what you need to think about as well, you're trying to slap with your right hand, and you're getting used to slapping and how hard you play and how it sounds when you play harder, softer, and how you fret the G. And all of these things, it happens by trying it out and sort of like feedback of how it feels and sounds. But here's one thing, another thing you should think about when you're doing this. Now, when I'm playing this, you notice you hear this little bit of a ring in the background. Like, to an experienced player, that's kind of annoying. And you might want to learn to hear that. And what you do is mute. Watch. So you want to try that as well. So it's, and after the first note, you just rest your other three fingers on the strings. So I'm trying to get the most out of hitting the G, a full sound from the note, playing close to the fret and hitting at a velocity that you feel good with. That's example 1. Let's go into example 2 now. So what we're going to do with example 2 is we're going to be in C on this example, a C and an octave. So okay, the pop. That's the new thing on this example. And I'd like to tell you, each example that I play in this graduating fashion from beginner up to advanced is going to include something new on each example. Maybe articulation, maybe a muting technique, or any number of things. So that's the beauty of it. And as simple as the examples are, if you embraced all the things that are happening at once, it becomes a little bit of a challenge, even simple. I mean, just play it, slam it out there. Yeah, that works too, like I said. But if you really want to get into being aware and know what's going on, that's another thing entirely. So what we're thinking about here is playing a C note, a full beat, and in a full sound. So in other words, when I hit the C, I let it ring all the way up until I put the dead note on the second beat. You want to think about that. And the muting, we want to sound clean. So let's think about what's going on with the muting. I'm going to play it kind of sloppy, like to let you know what it sounds like without muting. You hear all that extra ringing in there and everything? That's what you want to try to eliminate. So I'm going to play it very slow, and I'm going to observe and have you observe what I do to make that ringing stop. Now, muting takes a while to get used to if you're new at it. See, I'm using my lower fingers to keep that E from ringing. See that? You see those two fingers? They're holding down lightly on the E. And then when I hit the pop, the fingers move up, and now these two fingers are muting these two strings. You don't hear any overtones, any harmonics drifting around there, and this makes the clean sound. So when you're practicing this, you try to think of these things. You try to throw the mute in there, and like I said, it's not going to happen overnight, but at least you're aware of it, and you'll get better at it. An experienced player mutes all of this stuff and doesn't even give it a second thought. It's automatic. Okay, we're going to go into example 3 now. Let me explain a couple of things, what example 3 is about, what you should think about. It's kind of a root and fifth bass line going from C to F. And once again, that's simple, but the thing we must concentrate on is I want to play a C note for a full beat and make it as robust and clean as I can. And the same with the F. So now you play the notes, the live notes, for the full beat, and then it gets cut off by hitting the dead note afterwards. So you kind of concentrate on that. And then let's think about the muting to make it clean. Always clean. So I'm going to tell you right now, when you play a bass, it must be always clean. Unless you like a dirty, a grungy sound or something, then I guess it would be always grungy. I don't know. So anyway, what I'm saying is, once again, the muting. See, now, you're just playing one note, and so you have all these extra fingers laying around. Put them to work. Now, the fourth example and the last example is a staccato note on the first beat. That's new. Like I said, every example is going to have a little something we add to our kind of my repertoire of technique. So it's a staccato note is notated with a little dot over the note or under the note, depending whether the flag is going up or down. And so, that's what you want to do. You want as short as possible, as opposed to. So this has 3 notes per measure. So you have. So the first note is very short, and then you hit that a full beat, and then you hit the pop for a full beat, and you want it. It's the funkier when you play these notes precisely as the length that they should be. This adds to the funkiness. The funkiness happens from the initial attack, but it adds to it when you cut the note exactly on the next beat. And that's a lot of times people don't think of that. It's clean, so it's it sounds very funky. So the first note is short, and then you hit the second note, which is a C again, and you let that ring all the way up until you pull the pop, and then you kind of mute it on the fourth beat. You hear how I cut that off right on the fourth beat? You can feel that. So if you like this video, please subscribe, hit the like button, and hit the bell to be notified of all the new videos to come. Like I said in the beginning of this video, I am going to do one of these every 2 or 3 days, and it's going to be one bit at a time. So if you really want to learn your slap bass and you want to learn it right and gradual and effectively, stop by.